Donald Trump gave a completely unhinged and dangerous speech in West Palm Beach, praising Hezbollah and attacking Israel. Israel and the White House responded and condemned Donald Trump's shameful statement. We'll discuss. And we're more than 9 days since MAGA Republicans ousted its former speaker, Kevin McCarthy, and the chaos MAGA Republicans are causing to our government, it's only getting worse. And it's not a both sides issue. There is still no speaker. On Wednesday, MAGA, in a closed door session, voted 113 to 99 to nominate MAGA Republican Congress member Steve Scalise as its speaker, who compared himself to the KKK leader David Duke a few years back. But then MAGA quickly attacked him and undermined his ability to get the votes needed on the House floor to become the Speaker of the House. And this just in breaking news, Steve Scalise has removed his name from consideration as Speaker of the House after winning the majority vote. MAGA Republicans in utter chaos. And we saw when that vote took place, you had MAGA Republican members of Congress entering the chambers with lasso ropes, scarlet letters painted on their shirts, and it got weirder from there. And now the breaking news to report: Steve Scalise, a MAGA Republican who compared himself to KKK leader David Duke, is out. And now that leaves Jim Jordan, who covered up sexual abuse at his prior job, but he likely does not have the votes
What a
either.
crew.
We'll discuss. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis, speaking of Jim Jordan, sent a scathing letter to MAGA Republican Jim Jordan yesterday, informing him that if he wasn't protected by the speech or debate clause under the Constitution, his conduct towards her and Fulton County in trying to obstruct the RICO criminal case would be a felony under Georgia law. And it was another devastating day for Donald Trump in the New York Attorney General's civil fraud case, where it looks like he may have been involved in an additional criminal obstruction scheme with his former CFO, Alan Weisselberg. Think about that. Weisselberg testifying at a civil fraud case and likely implicated himself and Donald Trump in more criminal conduct. Also, it seems like Weisselberg committed perjury during his testimony today. It was abruptly halted. Speaking about being abruptly halted, Judge Eileen Cannon created chaos in her courtroom today during what's called a Garcia hearing on potential conflicts of interest for the lawyers who are paid for by Donald Trump's Political Action Committee and representing Donald Trump's co-defendant. Judge Cannon demanded that the prosecutors on Jack Smith's team provide her with what they believe the remedy should be before the actual conflicts hearing could take place. And then, despite the fact that they provided potential outcomes in the motion they filed, she got enraged, couldn't control herself, just lost it, and postponed the hearing indefinitely, screaming at Jack Smith's team. We'll discuss. I'm Ben Meiselas. This is the MeidasTouch Podcast. I'm joined by Brett and Jordy. Yeah, as I was reading that opening, getting the breaking news that Steve Scalise is out, and It's not like there's someone who's in. You have the MAGA Republicans just making a mockery, an utter mockery of our government. But I guess mirroring what Donald Trump was doing in West Palm Beach.
Yeah, big loss for KKK Grand Wizard David Duke to lose one of his best friends, Steve Scalise here, Ben. I mean, wow, when you look at just the choices they have there, and I think you broke it down perfectly in the beginning of the show by telling us who these candidates for Republican Speaker of the House actually are, it shows you just the depths of depravity of this party and how they really just do not want to coalesce around anybody normal, if there is anybody normal. And the fact is out there, guess what? if 5 Republicans came over and voted for Hakeem Jeffries would be Speaker of the House. Agreements could be made, deals could be made. I've been saying this every episode of this podcast since this chaos began with the Republicans and the speaker issue. They could get a more, I'm going to shock the Republicans by suggesting this idea, a more moderate Speaker of the House who represents more of the country and make some sort of power sharing agreement and work with the Democrats. But these Republicans, they'd rather work with Hezbollah and Hamas, I think, than work with the Democrats, which is a sad state of affairs. We could have a government that functions, that works together to get things done for the American people, but they flat out refuse, and it is disgusting, and they are in chaos. They're making the whole country look like another clown show, and it's ridiculous. Jordy,
I don't
anyway.
think, Brett, what you're saying there is sarcastic, though, because of the disinformation, lethal disinformation echo chamber that is Fox. I truly believe that if you presented to Republicans, who are now the MAGA Republicans, with that choice, who would you rather have Speaker of the House? Vladimir Putin or any Democrat? The leader of Hamas or any Democrat? I truly believe that the MAGA Republicans would choose Hamas, Hezbollah, or Vladimir Putin. That is how radicalized and extreme the MAGA Republicans have become. I don't think that's hyperbole.
At this point, we just have to think, is it going to take more rounds than days? Meaning it took 15 rounds for McCarthy to get elected. How much longer are the American people going to have to wait until we have a speaker? Is it going to go past 15 days? Like, are we even getting closer with the Scalise news now? Are they narrowing it down? No, I don't think they are. They thrive in the chaos, and they don't thrive in the chaos. They just love to live in the chaos.
A vote isn't even on like the horizon, Jordy.
No.
Like we're not even anywhere near there. And remember, Steve Scalise, he won. They had this secret closed door meeting, secret. Marjorie Taylor Greene, a meeting of the 5 families, and they took Marjorie Taylor Greene always speaks in mafia talk. So meetings with the 5 families in the secret closed door meeting, and they had to take away the phones because snitches get stitches. These are things Marjorie Taylor Greene actually said. They needed to take away the phones like it was like a comedy show, and they didn't want it to like leak before the next Netflix special came out. They had to take away the phones because these Republicans are complete toddlers, I guess, who cannot control themselves and who just snipe at each other over X and on various social media all day long. They had to confiscate the phones. They go in this closed door meeting. They have this vote. It's very contentious. Steve Scalise wins this closed door vote, 113 to 99, beating Jim Jordan. I think it's important to also say Jim Jordan was Donald Trump's choice for the role. So Donald Trump losing, he put his hand out, his arm out for this one and endorsing Jim Jordan for the position. And then Jim Jordan ended up losing this vote. But what Chip Roy offered, another Republican, what he said during this meeting was he tried to say, you know what? We should not leave this room unless we have a consensus candidate that could get the 217 votes needed in order to actually become Speaker of the House. And the Republicans rejected that idea in the closed door meeting. I got to say, when Chip frickin' Roy is the smartest guy in the room, you know that there is
or just when Chip Roy's the voice of reason. That's it's a scary thought.
You're telling me, Jordy. And so
let's talk about the people who were in this room and what they were saying, because as you watched what was going down, it looked like an SNL parody. And with the writer's strike over, it could have been, except it's so dangerous. I mean, you have people MAGA Republicans, let me be clear who, walking into the conference room where they're holding these closed door sessions with lasso ropes, with scarlet letters on their shirts. If you don't believe me, here is MAGA Republican Harriet Hageman walking into the meeting where they voted for Steve Scalise, who's now withdrawn his name as we were doing the intro. But she walked in with a lasso rope. Play the clip.
strange.
Very strange indeed. Then you have MAGA Republican Nancy Mace walking around the Capitol building with the scarlet letter A on her shirt, basically saying that she feels dehumanized by other MAGA Republicans, but she is supporting MAGA Republican Jim Jordan and palling around with Matt Gaetz on the Steve Bannon show, who she previously voted to hold in contempt of Congress. And she was begging for donations on Bannon, where she previously mocked Matt Gaetz as a fraud for going on the Bannon show and asking for donations. Did you follow that? Don't worry if you didn't. Just watch MAGA Republican Nancy Mace.
I'm wearing the scarlet letter after the week that I just had last week, being a woman up here and being demonized for my vote and for my voice. I'm here to let the rest of the world know and the country know I'm on the side of the people. I'm not on the side of the establishment, and I'm going to do the right thing every single time, no matter the consequences, because I don't answer to anybody in D.C. I don't answer to anyone in Washington. I only answer to the people.
Oh.
What?
Nauseating.
Okay,
but do you think she knows
the
A on the shirt stands for adultery? Do you think she knows the full story and that's what the actual letter on the shirt stands for? And it's not because she is a woman. I mean, give me a freaking break. And she wants to act like she's standing up for her constituents. This is somebody with zero spine whatsoever. This is an individual who went to Donald Trump, who went to Trump Tower in New York and took a selfie video of herself saying, "Look, everybody, I'm at Trump Tower. I love Donald Trump. You going to endorse me? I love Donald Trump." And then what happened? Donald Trump humiliated her right after, saying, "I don't support this lady whatsoever." Like, just the most, does she have like a humiliation?
It's an attention seeking thing. At a certain point, I think I respect Harriet Hagman a little bit more for not even addressing the weird lasso thing, because like at least she didn't stop the cameras and say, "I have this lasso because I am a blah 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 blah." Like she just kind of kept walking with it, which by itself is just the strangest thing.
Like, I'm just gonna be a weirdo, and I'll let the people talk about it.
They could come to their own conclusions on this one.
There's a gnarly video of Nancy Mace from 2017 that's resurfaced, where I've never, whatever you want to do in your private is your private, but I've never seen anything like this before in terms of drinking games. It's a video of her from 2017 where she takes, it's really, she takes a shot of alcohol. Okay. And then she spits it in the mouth of the person sitting next to her. And then the person sitting next to her spits it in the mouth. The person sitting next to him, and then the person spits it in the mouth of the person, and then the person vomits on the person sitting next to him. It's the most disgusting video I've ever seen.
So, did the full video make it into your hot take of this morning?
I couldn't do the full video in my hot take.
This was legitimately this was a little behind the scenes, and we'll talk more behind the scenes on the Patreon Meidas More After Show, patreon.com/MeidasTouch. But one of our big debates last night was how much of this video do we actually show in the hot take? Like, do we show 2 rounds of the shot going from person to person? Do we show the actual throwing up? Is that too disgusting for the audience? We spent a good 30 minutes on that.
Well, here's the thing though, where that video first, I decided to cut it short. Where that video surfaced when she was running for the South Carolina House of Representatives and claiming that she was this moderate centrist, her Democratic opponent said, recording yourself doing that is probably poor judgment. And then the media didn't really pick that up. And then she kind of created this image as a centrist. And then she won in 2020 by like 8,000 votes. And right now she's there in South Carolina and she just kind of lies about everything. Anyway, if you thought it couldn't get worse than a MAGA Republican walking in with a lasso and another one wearing a scarlet letter A, here is MAGA Republican George Santos, fresh off of a superseding indictment for stealing credit card and identities of people and charging it so his campaign was able to raise money based on theft. here he is now saying that because Scalise didn't return his phone calls, he's never Scalise, and because of the power that the MAGA he's never Scalise, and because of the power that the MAGA Republicans gave to Santos, he's able to like tank the leadership votes. Here, play this clip of Santos.
Yeah, it's never Scalise. At this point, we're going to have to find someone else in leadership that comes forward that's going to be a compromise candidate. But as for me, it's never for Scalise. No, it's not because he didn't call me. It's because if you're in leadership, there's 222 members of your party, 221 now. You talk to everybody. I've reached out numerous times to Congressman Scalise, and me reaching out and asking him for guidance in his leadership and him not reaching back out, that's a dereliction of his duty as a leader. So I'm not voting for somebody who lacks fundamental leadership skills. I don't know. I don't care, quite frankly. How is media
You have George Santos talking about fundamental leadership skills.
I'm gonna pass out. I'm like gonna actually pass out. Like,
so the Santos,
like this is not an SNL skit. This is a major American political party, but this is what Donald Trump has done to this political party. They are devoid of any sense of purpose and what they do. And they all act like him, like they act like fascist babies. And the lasso, the scarlet letter, you got throw George Santos in. So let me just show you. This is what our House of Rep.
One sec. I need to comment on the Santos thing real quick, because that clip right there, and Brett, I want to hear your take on this. It's hilarious. It's the funniest clip I think I've ever watched.
Yeah.
And here's why. The person asking the question just point blank, are you never Scalise because you didn't return your phone call? And his first instinct, Santos, is no, that's not why. And then he spends the rest of the video talking about that he's never Scalise because Scalise never returned his call. It's really incredible. And then you know what? Santos always talks like this and moves like this in all of these videos that he's in. It's really incredible. I was trying to think what it was. It's like a kid who has to go to the bathroom, like doing the pee-pee dance. That's what Santos is in every video when he gets asked a question.
The funniest thing about Santos, too, is when he found out that there was a superseding indictment against him because the MAGA Republicans had to confiscate the phones of all the MAGA Republicans. When he was in that closed-door vote, he didn't realize a superseding indictment. So we all knew that he was now charged with the fact that, like, his treasurer and his other campaign finance person told on him that he stole people's credit cards and came up with a fake loan. So he walks out and they were in the press are like, so you stole people's credit cards? And he's like, what are you talking about? And they're like, you stole people's credit cards. Like, that's not true. And then he just kind of like, it's always him running away from people also. But in all seriousness, here's what the House of Representatives looked like today when it went into recess after just 2 minutes. So just to be clear, whereas when Democrats controlled the House of Representatives, we had major pieces of legislation. When I say we, I'm talking about Americans. We had infrastructure. We had the PACT Act. We had the CHIPS Act. We had the Inflation Reduction Act, right? We're talking about reducing the cost of insulin. We have 36,000 infrastructure projects going up. We have the government negotiating lower prescription drug prices, right? We have so many things happening. And this is what it looks like. This was the full session today in the House of Representatives. Play this clip.
Pursuant to Clause 12A of Rule 1, the chair declares the House in recess subject to the call of the chair.
And now I want to show you.
Bravo. Great day of work, everybody. Great day of work.
Henry at least got better at hitting the gavel. The first time when he hit the gavel, when like he was Thor. Yeah, that was weird.
More measured on the
gavel hit him.
Yeah, the gavel. Yeah. In Soviet Russia, gavel hits you. What I don't understand, like these are the same folks who go on and on about we need stricter work requirements on the money going out for these various programs. It's like, y'all worked for 2 minutes today. Where are the work requirements on you? How about we actually put together how much time you are working for the American people and adjust your salaries accordingly? Because you're not doing a damn thing. In fact, it's worse than you not doing a damn thing. You are actively harming people. You're actively harming the entire United States of America. And by the way, the world. So in essence, you should actually be charged. Like, these people should be fined for this sort of behavior at the end of the day.
And then, Brett, compare that to all of them freaking out and spreading the misinformation about when Biden put the lid on, before noon or whatever. And they're, oh my God, he's not working. How can he not work? What's going on? Meanwhile, the guy was working. That's not what a lid is. And these folks, these MAGA Republicans, they're like, no, I'm done for the day here.
Well, Jordy, I said this on the last show. Here's what the problem is. They believe, genuinely, I think they believe this, that when they are tweeting, that they are working.
Oh.
They think, oh, I sent out some tweets today. Ted Cruz, I promoted my podcast today. So that's what they view as working. And so they think if they just shit post a little bit, send off some tweets, that's good. They did their job, right? They riled up their base. They made it the appearance that they're doing work. And the disparity that I think they have realized works to their advantage is on the Democratic side of things and in the White House, they're not tweeting all day. They're actually out there on the field doing the work, speaking with world leaders, figuring out how to make life better for Americans, figuring out how to solve really complex geopolitical issues. They're not spending all day on Twitter. So what these Republicans have realized is all the time that there's real work is being done, they could use that time, that vacuum of information, to then spread their disinformation, and they view that as working, and that's all they care about. And we said this on the last show, they've become the blame America first party. They like to call themselves America first. They are blame America first. There is never a problem that this country faces where they don't go and blame America first. They're fundamentally anti-American. That sort of attitude is so anti-American, because when tragedy used to strike in this country or around the world, we used to rally around the government. We used to rally around the people. We used to go, okay, this horrible thing happened. What are we going to do next as a country? We didn't go and start blaming the people in charge for the catastrophes. I mean, that's the big difference right now of this Republican Party.
You've heard the term mansplaining. What I refer to the Republicans as is MAGA-splaining, because these are the people right here who are trying to control you. They want to take away your freedoms. These people who can't even elect a leader amongst them, they want to tell us how we should balance our deficit. Like, they want to lecture us in fiscal conservatism. Is it any shock that this group of clowns that you're seeing right now are the reason why there's $7.8 trillion in debt that was added to our country's balance sheets when Donald Trump was in office? This is how they behave. And then, like an abuser, like a sociopath. And when you start framing their behavior in those terms, it actually all fits into place. They create the problem. They're the arsonists, and then they blame you for it. And so it's kind of sociopathic, malignant narcissism. It's that type of abuser mentality and behavior at a groupthink level that has become the MAGA Republican Party, that has taken over the Republican Party as they've ceded all of their power to Donald Trump to take over it, because that's ultimately his pathology, and they've created the image of him. And then what do? Blame the Democrats. It's you who did it. It's you who did it. And that's why I think there are so many people, I see it in the chat. I see it in the comments. I see it in the comments, and people who talk to me all the time, where it does feel like PTSD. It does feel like the way you feel when you're abused by someone, because the Republicans will do it to your face. They'll screw you. They'll take your freedoms. They'll behave like utter clowns. And they'll go, what do you mean? You need to get off Social Security. You want health care? You greedy person, you. And it's like, shut the up. What are you talking about?
And it's like every topic, right, Ben? It's like they want to lecture Democrats on crime. You have Jim Jordan. He holds all these hearings. Let's hold a hearing on Chicago. Let's hold a hearing on DC. Like, how about we hold a hearing on your district, which is called Danger City, which is one of the biggest crime hotspots in the United States of America. Jim Jordan. How about that? Like, these are the people who want to lecture us.
McCarthy.
How about when they took that
Killing County?
How about when they took the traveling circus on the road? When they went to New York, I mean, they're unbelievable.
Yeah, that's what we're
people.
talking about.
They're
They go
just
to New York.
performance artists.
They go to cities and their own districts have worse crime than the cities they go to. This is the entire thing. They want to talk about fiscal responsibility when they've run up the budgets, they've run up the deficits, they've run up the debt more than anybody in our history. So they actually have no leg to stand on. But one of the things that they do through their abuse, and one of the things that I think too many people fall for at the end of the day, is this idea that they are somehow winning. I hear this so much, but the MAGA people, they're winning though. They're winning. Look, they're winning. That I go, what's the proof? How do you define winning? You know, what's the proof of the winning? They make a lot of noise and they humiliate themselves a lot and they get a lot of headlines for being ridiculous. Okay, I don't think that's winning. How about we look at all the special elections that have taken place since 2022? How about we look at the midterm results and how they were supposed to be? How about we look at all these ballot initiatives that we've seen? How about we look at the Supreme Court races that we've seen since 2022? They've lost all of them, like 100% of them. So I don't know how these people who are saying this define winning, but they're really not winning. They're not. They're simply not winning. Mm-hmm. They're just very loud. They're very obnoxious. They're very in your face. But that is not winning.
I want to show you this too. This is Republican McCall. And one of the things that he says here is, you know, he's like, one of the biggest threats right now in the world, he says, is that the Republican Party is behaving this way. This is a Republican who is saying this, but also when the solution is staring him in the face, he's like, I don't know what to do then. Here, play this clip.
Every day that goes by, it gets more dangerous. You know, I was on the phone with our friends from Israel. They're going to need a supplemental, an aid to replenish the Iron Dome. But they can't do that if we don't have a speaker in the chair. So I see a lot of threats out there, but one of the biggest threats I see is in that room, because we can't unify as a conference and put a speaker in the chair to govern. I can't get my resolution of 416 co-sponsors condemning Hamas and supporting Israel without a speaker in the chair. I can't get that supplemental aid to Israel without, a speaker in the chair. So it's very dangerous what we're doing.
Well, maybe, just maybe, your party is fatally flawed. And just maybe, if you looked across the aisle, the demonization that comes from Fox and the right-wing echo chambers, maybe that's actually not what exists. Maybe what exists are pragmatic people who are trying to solve problems for the American people, who you may disagree with on certain issues, but who fundamentally we should be able to work together to deal with existential threats. You know, I had Democratic Congressmember Jackson on, and he said something super interesting to me. He goes, Ben, the incentive structure for MAGA Republicans is really one of the core problems. For Democrats, the incentive structure is you get rewarded for actually passing legislation and doing good things for the American people. In the MAGA Republican Party, the incentive structure is how outrageous can you be and how can you own the libs? Then you get rewarded by going on Fox and going on Hannity and Laura Ingraham or one of those. It's deeply embedded in the incentive structure, and the incentive structure should be on the American people. The incentive structure should be, how do we make our country better? How do we improve things here? And frankly, it's the pro-democracy coalition of Democrats and people who get things done, independents, people who have left MAGA to join up this pro-democracy coalition who is getting things done. So I want to compare what we just saw right now at the congressional level to their cult leader, Donald Trump, and his behavior as well, how disqualifying it is. I want to talk about it. Then I want to contrast that to what is President Biden doing? What are Democrats doing? And let's just have an intelligent conversation about that. I think it's so critical we do that. First, I want to remind everybody about our Patreon. It's patreon.com/MeidasTouch. As I've said before, we don't have outside investors here at the MeidasTouch Network. The way we've built this is through your help and your support and our pro-democracy sponsors. Think about this. You want to know, are we winning? How about this stat? More people watch the MeidasTouch Network on digital platforms than Fox and CNN. And yes, NBC and Wall Street Journal and all of those for sure. But more than Fox and CNN without outside investors. Thanks to you. It's Patreon, patreon.com/MEIDASTOUCH. We will be announcing shortly our next Zoom chat where you can meet me and my brothers. And we'll also do exclusive after show content there as well. And as part of the exclusive after show content we're offering today, we are going through our library again of some of the original MeidasTouch videos from 2020 that are still relevant today. We're bringing it out of the archive. So please join us at our exclusive after show. And if you can, if you're able to, no worries if you can't. It's patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Become a member now. We've got a lot more show. Let's take our first quick ad break of the day.
Let's take a quick break to talk about our next partner, ZBiotics. Now, if you're like me, you've probably skipped a workout because of drinks the night before. Like, it happens. But if you're committed to your healthy routine, you need ZBiotics. ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. ZBiotics produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. It's designed to work like your liver, but in your gut where you need it most. Just remember to drink ZBiotics before drinking alcohol, drink responsibly, and get a good night's sleep to feel your best tomorrow. Now, I can't lie, after we hit 1 million subscribers, I may have partied a little bit too much that night. But luckily, I knew I had ZBiotics. Now, as instructed, I drank a bottle of ZBiotics before any alcohol, and I was amazed at just how good I felt the next day. Give ZBiotics a try for yourself. Go to zbiotics.com/Meidas to get 15% off your first order when you use Meidas at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember, head to zbiotics.com/Meidas and use the code Meidas at checkout for 15% off. Thank you, ZBiotics, for sponsoring this episode. We're brought to you today by Manscaped, who's taken a step up to bring your face the cleanest shave it's ever seen. So this season, no need to toil in trouble. Manscaped's all-new Handyman is the best way to get rid of that stubble. Featuring a compact design and next-gen skin-safe technology, the Handyman was designed to give you that smooth finish without the mess of a traditional shave. Get the Swedish treat this Halloween by going to manscaped.com and use code MIDAS for 20% off plus free shipping. I truly love Manscaped's beard products, and it may be spooky season, but you don't want to go around scaring people with that scraggly beard. Give them something to look at with Manscaped's Handyman. With the Handyman skin-safe technology to help reduce nicks and cuts, you can finally feel confident when going for that close shave. For wet or dry use, feel free to bring this anywhere and everywhere. The compact design and airplane friendliness makes this the perfect travel tool for on the go. And for my wolfmen with a little more scruff, Manscaped's Beard Hedger Pro Kit has everything you need to tame your mane. This cordless trimmer has a rotary wheel that gives you 20 hair cutting lengths all with one guard, so no more drawers full with extra add-ons collecting cobwebs. That's right, your Halloween costumes may take effort, but your beard grooming doesn't need to, when you can get 20 different beard lengths in just one guard. The Beard Hedger has a long-lasting battery, universal charging, and a strong motor. There's no trick with this treat. Manscaped has you covered. So get 20% off and free shipping with code MIDAS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code MIDAS. For a look as sweet as candy, get yourself a Handyman from Manscaped.
Great ad reads, Jordy. And by the way, I should have mentioned, it's great to have you back, Jordy. I know you weren't feeling well earlier this week, and all the Midas Mighty wished you a swift recovery. So it's great to see you. And
doing better.
When you add the three brothers, we get a little carried away sometime. And so
I saw Jordy taking shots with Nancy Mace at the commercial break. I saw it in the camera, so you can't.
Don't even go there. I tried to Men in Black that image from my try to.
That video of Mace, though, is really the culmination of what we always say about these MAGA Republicans, of like how they like to cough and sneeze on you. I mean, just show somebody that video as you describe MAGA Republicans, and that's exactly what you get.
I got to say, I just want to say before we get to the next segment, though, I just want to say earlier today, we posted on the MeidasTouch account just a little question to the viewers, to the followers, right? This is on the MeidasTouch on Threads, on X, etc. Can Scalise's speaker dreams outlast this lettuce? We had a picture of Steve Scalise next to a head of lettuce.
8:01 a.m.
The Liz Truss situation. That's from this morning. And we could safely say the lettuce has won, everybody. The lettuce has outlasted Steve Scalise's speaker dream. We tweeted out, my money's on the lettuce. I guess we could go and collect now.
Who was the lettuce?
No,
just the head of lettuce.
Just the head of lettuce. Ben doesn't know memes sometimes. That's a meme.
I'm saying they both look like a head of lettuce.
Oh, that one over
they
my
do.
head.
They do look. They do look exactly the same.
It was too smart, Ben.
All right, let's get into it. Okay, but this Trump speech last night, in West Palm Beach, it went from like weird to dangerous to like red alert. And especially when you know that one of the classified documents that Donald Trump stole were war plans of Iran. And you think that, and how do we know that? It's not like, oh, the bench was saying that. It's on audio recording, and not like when MAGA Republicans say that they have audio recordings. Like, we've heard the audio recording. Like, we've played it. You can hear Donald Trump talk about it. And Donald Trump's excuse was, that was just paper that I was showing. That wasn't the war plans that I said. But then there's an exhibit of those documents. It's like count 31, 32, or 33. I forget which one it is, on the superseding indictment in the Mar-a-Lago case in the Southern District of Florida. We know those existed. So think about that. That was one of the documents Donald Trump had, and how he feels about Israel, how he feels about Hezbollah. Take that into account when you see this. So first off, it starts with Donald Trump just like whining about his microphone. One thing I should say too, like, where is this? It's at the like Hilton Airport Hotel lobby, and they used to call it Club 45. Now they call it Club 47. But like the same way Donald Trump like went to a non-union shop and like pretends it's a union shop and has people like hold up signs who aren't union workers and say union workers, like it's all a set. It's all a fake. It's all a fraud when it comes to him. So it's not a club. It's like the Hilton conference room that he does these things in, and he calls it Club 47. I think that context is not discussed.
Everything is a fraud. Everything.
Every
Four Seasons, Total Landscaping. Yeah, there's a theme here.
There's a theme.
So here is Donald Trump complaining about his microphone and yelling at his staff for the bad microphone. Play this clip.
And I'm glad it's such, because this is the worst microphone I think I've ever had. I hope you can hear me back there. Justin, don't pay the bill for this mic. I'm blowing out my voice talking to this stupid mic. This is the worst mic I've ever had. Okay, now we'll get back to the speech. I'm trying to get their attention. Turn up the mic. Is it okay? And then I don't pay a bill and they say, Trump doesn't pay his contractors.
Okay. So then we get back to this.
Even the way he's speaking, though, like a mobster, right? Like he's doing an impression of like a mobster in a mob movie. It's a very particular way that he's even talking. It's just very deranged and off-putting. And like
usually in the mafia movies, like it's like one mafia boss yelling at another. He's yelling at the microphone. Like, let's be like you stupid effing microphone, you piece of crap, freaking microphone idiot. It's like, okay, and that's not far off from the way he was behaving. And legacy media is like, and Donald Trump went to Club 47 where he
they buy into all of it.
He was impassioned. It's like he's yelling at a microphone. Okay. But then he's like, I want to get back to the speech, you shitty microphone. That's okay. And then he gets back to the speech. Great and it's speech. Horrific. It's horrific. Here he is. And we did a little compilation of the lowlights. He attacks Israel, praises Hezbollah, attacks an Israeli minister, calls Hezbollah smart, praises President Xi, all within a few moments. Play this clip.
You know, Hezbollah is very smart. They're all very smart. The press doesn't like when they say it. But Hezbollah, they're very smart. I'll never forget that Bibi Netanyahu let us down. That was a very terrible thing. I will say that. They've got to straighten it out because they're fighting potentially a very big force. They're fighting potentially Iran. And when they have people saying the wrong things, everything they say is being digested by these people because they're vicious and they're smart. And boy, are they vicious, because nobody's ever seen the kind of sight that we've seen. But they cannot play games. So we were disappointed by that, very disappointed. But we did the job ourselves, and it was absolute precision, magnificent, beautiful job. And then Bibi tried to take credit for it. That wasn't good. That didn't make me feel too good, but that's all right. So they got to strengthen themselves up. And they said, gee, I hope Hezbollah doesn't attack from the north because that's the most vulnerable spot. I said, wait a minute. You know, Hezbollah is very smart. They're all very smart. The press doesn't like when they say it. You know, I said that President Xi of China, 1.4 billion people, he controls it with an iron fist. I said, he's a very smart man. They killed me the next day. I said he was smart. What am I going to say? But Hezbollah, they're very smart. And they have a national defense minister or somebody saying, I hope Hezbollah doesn't attack us from the north. So the following morning they attacked. They might not have been doing it, but if you listen to this jerk, you would attack from the north because he said that's our weak spot. But Hezbollah, they're very smart.
Trump is one speech away from saying that he's in love with Hezbollah and they send him love letters the same way Kim Jong-un is. And I just want you to think about, there's Trump, he's seething with jealousy because President Biden is acting like a leader. You've got the Israeli government thanking President Biden for acting like a leader and showing leadership following a horrific terrorist attack. There were those billboards up in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv saying, you know, thank you, President Biden. And then you have Donald Trump angry, has a personal grievance against Benjamin Netanyahu because the Israeli government and Netanyahu wouldn't support Donald Trump when he was claiming the 2020 election was rigged. So when you think about that, one of the classified documents involved war plans regarding Iran, and you start to make connections and you start to realize, okay, we should have realized it a while ago. We all realized it who watch the Midas Mighty community has. Who were the first people that Donald Trump invited to the White House? To the White House. Putin's top people smiled, mocked us in the Oval Office, right? Sergei Kislyak, Sergei Lavrov, mocked us in our Oval Office. Donald Trump wouldn't let the cameras or anybody else meet with them, went into the room, spoke with them privately. A year later, Donald Trump did the same in Helsinki. Think about that. Think about that. And think about where are the weapons and the money coming from. It's being funneled in to Iran, to Hamas and Hezbollah. It's coming from Russia. Donald Trump has those war plans that he's bragging about. Think about it. It's horrific. I want to show you this clip as well.
2 + 2 = 4. I will say.
This is Donald Trump saying that President Biden let terrorists into the country, and then he just keeps on saying Barack Hussein Obama and just keeps repeating that name and emphasizing Hussein. And then Donald Trump just says the Capitol looks like shit. Play this clip.
Instead of keeping terrorists and terrorist sympathizers out of America, the Biden administration is inviting them in. You know why? Because he's got a boss. Who's his boss? Barack Hussein Obama. Barack Hussein. Barack Hussein Obama. Remember the great Rush Limbaugh? Barack Hussein Obama. Here you go, Barack Hussein Obama. Hello, Lee. Unbelievably, the corrupt Biden Department of Justice recently invited an Iranian-backed judge from Iraq to visit our nation's capital. Isn't that nice? He couldn't have been too impressed with our capital. It looks like shit. No, have you seen what they've done to us?
Disqualifying, disgusting, despicable, deranged. I could go on.
Sick.
You can't look at that and be like, that's my guy. That is the person who I want to trust the life of my family to. Would you let someone like that even into your house? Would you let someone like that near your family? Who behaves that way? Well, the MAGA Republicans in the House of Representatives with their lassos and scarlet letters and George Santos says, I guess they do. Who behaves this way? Think about if you had a neighbor, you had a coworker, if you had someone who acts like that. This is who the MAGA Republicans pledge their allegiance to. But if you think about it, if they're afraid of George Santos, think about what they are with Donald Trump. And think about what they are with people like Vladimir Putin. Think about that. And here is Donald Trump connecting the terrorist attack on Israel with Donald Trump's election conspiracies from 2020 that have all been debunked. Play this clip.
And if the election wasn't rigged, there would be nobody even thinking about going into Israel. The election was rigged, very sadly rigged.
Can you think about how the standards of American politics and behavior has been degraded by the MAGA Republicans, by that disgusting, traitorous individual, and by legacy media's complete resignation of their duty? Could you imagine somebody saying things like that just 10, 15, 20 years ago. And the way that kind of fascism works is that it creeps. It creeps. It tests the limits. Okay, I got 1 yard. I got 3 yards. I got 5 yards. And when people give in and they're like, okay, I'll let you, fine, you just do that. I don't have enough time for this. Then they go a little further. Then they go a little further. Then they go a little further. Or you could say it another way. First, they went after that group. Then they went after that group. Then they went after that group, right? And whichever prism or paradigm you want to look at, before you know it, because that's been allowed to happen by the completely weak legacy media, the fourth estate, who does nothing, because that's been allowed by the Republican Party, all of a sudden you wake up. It's October when that speech happened. It's October 11th, 2023. And before you know it, in the blink of an eye, you have the leader of a major American political party, the Republican Party, up there saying things like that. And you go, what happened? What happened? But it was happening all along. And the good news is we can reverse that trend. We really can. And to Republicans who care about our democracy, I tell you, look, I know your echo chambers. I know your Fox and your right wing, all of that. I know your incentive structure is to attack us and say, these are lefty, radical, extreme. I know it's for you to say these Marxist communists. But I promise you what we care about is healthcare for our people, protecting our seniors, protecting our troops, protecting our veterans, making sure that people have their freedoms, that women have the right to control their bodies, that people can love who they want to love, that people can read the books that they want to read without the government telling them how they need to behave. We want access to education. We want access to life-saving healthcare. We want jobs. We want better working conditions. We want better infrastructure. And our sleeves are rolled up to do that. That's what we want. Stop demonizing the real silent majority of Americans who just crave normalcy. We crave compassion. We just want intelligence. Frankly, we don't give a crap about political parties and labels. What we care about is freaking normalcy, which is only embodied in one political party right now, the Democrats. But if it wasn't, we think differently, but that's just the way it is right now. And there is a chance, there is an opportunity to break free from this. So to any of you who are watching this for the first time, I tell you, this Meidas Mighty community that everybody here has built, that you are all a part of, to me is the difference maker, because it represents normalcy, compassion, intelligence, and being unapologetically pro-democracy. It's a rebuttal of everything you just saw.
Sounds very communist, Ben. That's all I got to say. Total commie Marxist.
So woke, bro.
What a woke rant. No, I'm honestly.
Let me
with
show
Trump,
you this.
Though, I just want to say that with Trump, though, if you notice, and I think our followers have noticed, right? Everything is about him. At the end of the day, every single thing is about him. When he speaks about how adversaries speak to him, to them, they're his friends. Why are they his friends? They called me sir. They called me the President Xi. He called me sir. They don't call Biden sir. He could say the same thing about Hamas. He could say the same thing about Hezbollah. He could say the same thing about Russia, because all he cares about is that gratification. And that is the kind of thing that allows you to be played by dictators and autocrats across the world. That is not what makes you strong. That's actually what makes you incredibly weak. That's what makes Donald Trump a weak person who is incredibly susceptible to foreign influence that is damaging to the United States of America. And when we have a moment like we have now, which is the single most complex situation you can navigate, Middle East peace, attacks in the Middle East. I can't think of a more complex, more heated issue. You need somebody in there who has a steady hand, somebody who is not influenced by foreign actors saying nice things to you. Sir, they called me sir. They called me. That's not the person you want to have in power at that time. You want a person who's able to look at what's going on, who's able to take a measured approach, who's able to do what's best for the world, who's able to do what's best for the United States of America. And if you know anybody who supports Donald Trump right now, I want you to show them these videos and ask if they are okay with this kind of rhetoric. One of the comments that I saw that we received, most people were happy. We were one of the first people, I think the very first people yesterday to report on Donald Trump's comments about Israel last night. We broke that story. Our researchers are incredible. A hat tip to them for their incredible work. But I saw a few comments in the mix that said, why are you platforming this guy?
Oh,
he's nobody. Why are you platforming this person? Why are you giving him it's not about giving him a platform. He is the leader of one of the two major political parties. He is the leading contender for the president of the United States. And the way that most mainstream media covers this guy is covering him the way we have read from all these news articles throughout the past few months after his rallies. Donald Trump gave an uproarious speech to adoring fans where they chanted Trump, 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 and everybody chanted in applause when he said, Biden, you're fired. And the crowd erupted at Club Mar-a-Lago, whatever the hell he calls it. That's been the coverage that he has. So it's actually important that people see the real Trump, that people are exposed to the raw, unfiltered nature of what he is saying, the hateful nature of what he is saying, and they are forced to confront that reality because it can't be sanitized, and people need to see what is actually going on. Because if we close our eyes to this, if we cover our ears, then people are not going to understand what is actually happening. They're going to take the legacy media narratives at face value. You're going to cede the entire messaging argument to Donald Trump, who's able to present that speech then any way he wants to, rather than getting ahead of it and saying, look what he said. Defend that. Defend that. I think it's so important that we highlight these words.
Well, you think about the rise of authoritarians and just use the logic of someone was like, just let the authoritarian go on and keep building and spreading the lies. Just let them do it and don't worry about it. You don't want to plat for them. No, you got to cover the truth and wake people up and let people know here is what is going on. That is the disinfectant for that. And finally, with all of the projection that comes from Donald Trump and MAGA, right? It's always projection and confession. So when they try to go after Biden's mental acuity, it's always a red flag that there's probably something serious going on with Donald Trump. And I really mean that people need to take a serious look and focus on this. And one of the biggest tells is how deep they're going in on President Biden for it, with just bogus crap and actually edited type of stuff. Because if you look at the things that Donald Trump's been saying, he's accused Biden of starting World War II. He repeatedly says that he believes Obama is the president in lots of speeches. He keeps saying he believes he's running against Obama, that Obama is doing this and Obama is doing that. And today, again, he went on Fox. He spoke with Brian Kilmeade, and he again called Biden Obama and says it's against Obama. Watch what happens here. Play this clip.
Brian, it's all coming through Iran, and Obama he doesn't want to talk about it. He doesn't even mention them in his statements. It's all coming through Iran.
But you mean President Biden. So,
and could you imagine if that was just the other way around and it happened on almost a daily basis when Donald Trump is doing that? I've showed you a lot of Trump. Let me just show you President Biden's speech from earlier this week on Wednesday. This is President Biden talking about the solemnity of the situation, about how serious it is, and that silence is complicity. Compare what you saw with Donald Trump to this type of leadership. Play the clip.
This attack was a campaign of pure cruelty, not just hate, but pure cruelty against the Jewish people. And I would argue it's the deadliest day for Jews since the Holocaust. The deadliest day since the Holocaust. One of the worst chapters in human history that remind us all that expression I learned from my dad early on: silence is complicity. Silence is complicity. It really is. And I want you to know, I think you've already figured it out, I refuse to be silent. I know you refuse to be silent as well.
I'll show you another powerful moment from that speech right now. Play the clip.
That's why I took my kids, everyone when they turned 14 years old, one at a time, put them on a plane and took them to Dachau. I wanted them to see that you could not know what was going on walking through those gates. You could not fail to understand as a country what was going on. And that's a fact. It had a profound impact on my children and my grandchildren. Some thought taking a 14-year-old grandchild was not a mistake, but I took them one at a time. I got 3 more to go. And folks, it's important.
Think about all of the billions of dollars that the right wing, in wanting to foist upon us a Putin-style oligarchy, is spending to try to demonize that good man right there, President Biden. Say what you want about certain policies, or do I agree with President Biden on everything? I shouldn't, you shouldn't, you don't have to. But the one thing we should all agree on, that is what a leader looks like. And what we saw earlier in today's podcast of Donald Trump is not only what a leader does not look like, but that is what an enemy to the United States looks like, how an enemy to the United States talks. Got a lot more show to discuss. Let's talk about the court proceedings that have been occurring over the past few days. We'll talk about that and more after our last quick break of the day.
¿Estás disfrutando de mi podcast? Thanks to Babbel, I know what that means. Do you? 1 in 5 Americans have learn a new language on their bucket list. Now, if that's you, check it off the list this summer with Babbel. Because with Babbel, you start speaking a new language in just 3 weeks. That's right. This summer, you can start speaking a new language with Babbel. Now, why Babbel? Because it works. Instead of paying hundreds of dollars for a private tutor or fooling yourself with language apps that are a little more than just games, Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons are designed by over 150 language experts to help you start speaking a new language in as little as 3 weeks. Babbel is designed by real people for real conversations. All of Babbel's tips and tools for learning a new language are approachable, accessible, rooted in real-life situations, and delivered with conversation-based teaching. Babbel's courses are super convenient. They've helped me learn real-life conversation skills on my schedule. Now I'm going on vacation later this year, and I definitely feel more confident in my Spanish-speaking abilities for the most everyday and important tasks, like ordering food or asking for directions, you name it. Plus, Babbel's speech recognition technology, this helps you improve your pronunciation and accent, an absolute game changer. Studies from Yale, Michigan State University, and others continue to prove that Babbel is better. For instance, one study shows that using Babbel for 15 hours is equivalent to a full semester at college. With over 10 million subscriptions sold, Babbel is real language learning for real conversations. Now here's a special limited time deal for our listeners to get you started right now. Get 55% off your Babbel subscription, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/Meidas. Get 55% off at babbel.com/Meidas, spelled BABBEL.com/Meidas. Rules and restrictions may apply. We all hate wasting food. Now, nothing's ever wasted, thanks to Lomi. I have a Lomi and it's changed the way that I think about my food waste. Lomi transforms my trash into treasure at the push of a button. Lomi is a countertop electric composter that turns food scraps to plant food in 4 hours. There's no food rotting in my garbage and smelling up my kitchen. Now I only take the trash out on garbage day, plus no more leaky bags. I turn my waste into nutrient-rich Lomi earth that I can feed to my plants, lawn, or garden instead of sending it to the landfill. I can help the environment and make my life easier. All my food scraps, plant clippings, and even those leftovers that I forgot in the back of the fridge, they go back into my garden, helping me grow more nutritious food at home. And now, Lomi's new app lets me track my environmental impact, earn points for every cycle, and redeem freebies from Lomi and other great brands. I learned that food waste makes up a huge portion of our personal carbon footprint. By reducing the amount of food that I send to a landfill, I'm helping to do my part for the planet. Now, whether you want to start making a positive environmental impact or just grow a beautiful garden, Lomi is perfect for you. Head to lomi.com/Meidas and use the promo code Meidas to get up to $50 off your Lomi. That's $50 off when you head to lomi.com/Meidas and use promo code Meidas at checkout. Thank you, Lomi, for sponsoring this.
Thank you to our pro-democracy sponsors and also to everybody who's joined our Patreon, patreon.com/MeidasTouch. If you want to support our pro-democracy sponsors as well, it's in the description below. And you can always go to patreon.com/MeidasTouch and sign up at any time. I want to just mention this here, but we'll be talking about it more. This Sarah Huckabee Sanders podium scandal is heating up. For those who don't know what's going on in Arkansas, she apparently purchased, and I put that in quotes, a $19,000 podium from her friend who just started a consulting company using taxpayer dollars, even though the person who's her friend doesn't sell podiums, that the podium seems to be a fake podium and is not that expensive at all.
Man,
so
this is what the Gen Z kid called sus.
It seems like a way that Sarah Huckabee Sanders basically may have funneled thousands of dollars of taxpayer money in Arkansas to her friend to basically travel to Europe and have like the time of their lives together. Wow. What's being hypothesized, and then she used the podium payment to cover up the, using taxpayer dollars to her friends. And
podium
I
payment
just want to put that on everybody's radar to start looking into it. That's going to start. It already is heating up.
It's getting big. And there have been contemporaneous letters written at the time by concerned employees within the governor's office who sent emails out saying, I just want to flag this payment that is an irregular payment that makes no sense, just for the record, so that it's in writing. And the more that comes out, the more criminal that this scheme looks. Like this could easily go to the Department of Justice, wire fraud. Like Sarah Huckabee Sanders could be charged with a federal crime for what she's been involved with here. And we're at the beginning stages of this. And there's been like little by little drip, little drips coming out of this story. So we haven't done a full comprehensive hot take on this, but we may be due for one soon. I'll show this comment from Senator John Fetterman related to this. Fetterman has the best clapbacks ever. And so Mike Huckabee, Sarah Huckabee's dad, went and wrote this tweet in response to RNC Research, which is the RNC's X Twitter account. It's like the worst account ever. Like they call themselves research. They don't do anything. So they posted a clip of John Fetterman. They're the worst. It's the worst account. They posted a clip of John Fetterman. I think he was on the Colbert show, saying John Fetterman unironically stating, America is not sending their best and brightest, to Washington, D.C. Their implications saying that, look, John Fetterman is talking about himself here. That's what they're trying to say. I mean, what they're actually doing is they're mocking a stroke victim just to show you the Republican Party. Like that's what they're doing. They're mocking a recovering stroke victim because they're horrific people. But what did John Fetterman respond? So Mike Huckabee takes that RNC research tweet. He responds, Fetterman speaks truth. He's unaware of it, but he embodies the very truth he speaks. This could have been a skit on SNL, but it was a rare, funny moment on Colbert. And Senator Fetterman replied, I dress like your daughter buys podiums. That's a mic drop, making fun of himself a little bit of his own outfits, and also laying down the hammer on his daughter, Sarah Huckabee, who could be facing some very, very serious criminal consequences.
And look, here's why the MAGA Republicans attack the Department of Justice, though. And they do it so that when they engage in crimes like funneling $19,000 through fake podium purchases is just one random example. What do they then go? It's Biden's DOJ coming after me. They're coming after me, and it's so unfair. And then Merrick Garland and Biden. It's like, no, y'all are just committing crimes. Is what is happening. And the problem is, let's be very clear, okay? The FBI and the DOJ do have a lot of problems. I don't want to just be like an apologist. They want to be like the DOJ and FBI, they're perfect no matter what they do. There are real screw-ups and there's real disparities often in terms of how wealthy people get off things versus people who are impoverished and people of color. So there's real issues, systemic issues that need to be addressed, right? But when MAGA Republicans support terrorists and then use that to attack the Department of Justice and the FBI versus what real criticisms could be, it additionally creates further problems, destroying every aspect of it and not actually addressing actual systemic issues that could be addressed and resolved. So I want to mention that. Okay, so you have also this scathing letter that was sent today by Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis, actually sent yesterday to MAGA Republican Jim Jordan. I like reading it every day, so it feels like today. Her letters have been pitch perfect to Jim Jordan. Here's the one. And by the way, it's like Jim Jordan just keeps sending her letters. And so she responds. Then Jim Jordan sends another letter and then posts it on the RNC account, goes, oh, look at the letter I sent her. And then she just sends another mic drop letter back to him. And in the new one, she's basically like, look, Jim Jordan. The last one she told Jim Jordan, if you want to learn about RICO law because you're a non-licensed lawyer, you've never taken the bar exam, there's a non-bar fee of like $250 if you want to buy the book on RICO and then maybe learn about the law and then we can have a conversation. So that was brilliant. And this one, she's like, you're a criminal, basically. And yes, you're hiding behind the speech or debate clause immunity, but I'm going to let you know that if you didn't have the potential for speech or debate clause, this is a violation of our obstruction of justice laws here in the state of Georgia. And she's 100% right. Here's how she responds to Jim Jordan's latest letter that he sent her on September 27, 2023. She goes, a charitable explanation of your correspondence is that you are ignorant of the United States and Georgia constitutions and codes. A more troubling explanation is that you are abusing your authority as chairman of the Committee on the Judiciary to attempt to obstruct and interfere with a Georgia criminal prosecution. See OCGA section 1610-24. That's a felony in Georgia, what he's doing, in other words, she's saying. Indeed, you confessed to this motivation on Mark Levin's September 10th, 2023 show. When discussing one of my office active prosecutions, you boasted, quote, we're trying to get all the answers, but we're trying to stop this stuff as well. While you may enjoy immunity under the United States Constitution speech or debate clause, that does not make your behavior any less offensive to the rule of law. She goes on to say more, but she is spot on there. One of the interesting things that a lot of people aren't talking about, this would likely get related to the other federal cases that were brought by like Mark Meadows and Jeff Clark before the law and order judge there who's rejected them. And so I think that Jim Jordan would probably try to fight a relation to those cases, but that judge who's ruled against Meadows and Clark, I would argue that this is a related case to the Fulton County prosecutions, and that judge is not going to tolerate the behavior of this MAGA Republican nonsense. And you compare that, remember, in New York, there was a judge in the Southern District of New York who was a Trump appointee who actually bought into a lot of the Jim Jordan garbage, and it got nowhere, where they wanted to take the deposition of one of the people who used to work at the Manhattan District Attorney's office, and the Manhattan District Attorney brought injunctive relief to stop it. And then the Trump appointed judge was like, I'll let the deposition happen. And the deposition happened, and it went absolutely nowhere. It's like the stunt is over, right? It's like, okay, what happened to that Jim Jordan? And they just rely on people not talking about it anymore, right? Like their PR stunt was done, and then they basically move on. And what a waste of everybody's time. And again, horrific ruling by that New York Trump judge. And you go to the Southern District of Florida, right? There was a hearing today before Judge Cannon. It was what's called the Garcia hearing about potential conflicts of interest for the lawyers of Trump's co-defendants in the case where Donald Trump stole documents and concealed them at Mar-a-Lago, Waltine Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira, right, who are represented by Stanley Woodward and John Irving. Those are the lawyers, respectively. They're getting paid by Donald Trump's PAC. There was an earlier hearing in the morning of De Oliveira, and then the hearing for Waltine Nauta was in the afternoon. And the purpose of these hearings, when you're dealing with Garcia hearings, you're supposed to ask the witness questions like, are you aware that your lawyer is also representing these witnesses who may testify against you? Are you aware that you are entitled to independent counsel who can apprise you of what your rights are? Are you aware that there are potential plea discussions that you could have if you get independent counsel? Are you aware that the fact that Donald Trump's political action committees are paying for your lawyers, that they may have divided loyalty? It's supposed to be an adversarial process, right? And then ultimately, based on the answers, there's a remedy. The remedy may be, it's fine. There is no conflict, right? The remedy may be there is a conflict, but it's a waivable conflict. And the client's like, I know the issues and I intelligibly waive them. I'm okay with Trump's PAC paying for my lawyer. Or it may be an unwaivable conflict where it's ultimately decided that the lawyer is disqualified and the lawyer can no longer represent the client. That is the essence of what the Garcia hearing is about. The case is called Garcia, and it basically says that in unwaivable conflicts of interest, a lawyer could be disqualified after the hearing because the lawyer would not be providing effective assistance of counsel for the client. So apparently Judge Cannon got like livid at the prosecution because Judge Cannon says that she was shocked that one of the things that the prosecution implied is that the lawyers for Waltine Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira could be disqualified, could be barred. And she's like, show me the case law. Where are you getting that? It's called Garcia. Like that is the nature of the hearing. Ugh. And before getting to that step, the hearing is supposed to be conducted, right? Like, for all we know, after the evidence is presented, there may be no conflict, right? At which case, there is no disqualification. There may be a waivable conflict. For all we know, the conflict could be cured with certain steps, right? I'm all for that. I want the evidence to come out. But the problem that I have with what Judge Cannon did, amongst other things, is she didn't let the hearing take place because she was upset that the prosecution, she said, bamboozled her in the court by saying that one of the things they're asking for is for the lawyer of Nauta and De Oliveira to be barred. How are you that is what a Garcia hearing is. So I know a lot of people have been saying, all right, why isn't Jack Smith filed an appeal yet? She hasn't reached an appealable order yet, right? If she went through with the Garcia hearing, right, and denied the remedy instead of postponing the hearing, do you see what she's doing here? If she denied it, now the order becomes appealable. And then Jack Smith can go to the 11th Circuit. But by her theatrics and just postponing it, she incrementally causes delay.
Strategic.
Where
right?
she's then going to say, I can't have this trial in May of 2024 anymore. The lesson that she learned when she was reversed so quickly by the Circuit Court of Appeal in 2022, that she reached a final order so quickly. So now she's learned the wrong lessons. And now she goes, okay, here's how I screw with the prosecution and I help Trump. Just delay this, delay that, take this deadline out, show up, yell at the prosecution. That's what I just want to be clear. That's what she's doing. And by the way, if ultimately she made a ruling and said, look, there was an adversarial hearing, there is no conflict of interest, I want to read the order. And if the evidence supports that, like, just because I don't like Judge Cannon, who cares who I like or don't like? I want to see the evidence. But stopping the hearing because you got mad at the prosecution, could you imagine if federal judge Tanya Chutkan in Washington, D.C. behaved like that? When Donald Trump does something and Judge Chutkan's like, that was mean. I postponed. The hearing's off. I'm angry. That's not the judicial temperament. Like, so it's all connected though, right? You saw the behavior of the MAGA Republicans in Congress. You saw the behavior of their cult leader, Donald Trump. This is the behavior of Judge Cannon, the type of federal judge that they appoint, who doesn't have the temperament. She's corrupt, but doesn't have the judicial temperament. She may as well be walking in there with a lasso. Like, that's kind of the person, Donald Trump looked at lasso lady and was like, you know what? She'd make it. But that's kind of what he did. He looked at lasso lady and he looked at the George Santos type guy and was like, yeah, you're going to be my judge in Texas. And picks this like corrupt person who then the MAGA Republicans file all the cases in front of this like horrific judge, this guy who's horrible. And then he's like, I want lasso lady in the Southern District of Florida. And that's who has these momentous cases, who are making these decisions right now. And then finally, just talk about what went down in the New York Attorney General civil fraud case. You had Weisselberg up there. This is
wild.
So Weisselberg's severance of $2 million. Where did I hear $2 million? Where's that number from?
Where,
it
Ben?
is the criminal penalty against him in the Manhattan District Attorney criminal case where he went to Rikers Island. He had to pay back $2 million. So Trump, thinking he's smart, did a $2 million severance to basically try to pay off Weisselberg's fine for pleading guilty.
It's so brazen, Ben. That's so freaking like they couldn't even do like 1.8 million or like,
1.7 million. You did the exact
number. You're doing the exact number that the fine was for Weisselberg's prosecution. You're doing
and then
that
you put in
number.
the severance agreement in exchange for the benefits provided, employee promises, and then you basically list obstruction of justice. Now, these provisions, if this was like a normal non-compete where your employee wasn't a felon who was convicted of covering up for you, I see provisions like this from time to time in non-competes involving normal severance agreements. But in the context of a criminal prosecution, It's just obstruction of justice. And so
can I read a little bit of this? Can I just read a little bit from this? Because it's so brazen to put obstruction of justice in writing like this and then offer the exact amount of money that he was fined. This is so clearly to shut Weisselberg up, and you don't have to take our word for it because Donald Trump wrote that right into this severance agreement. And I'll read a couple points that I think are the most relevant from this. So here it says 3, employee promises in exchange for the benefits provided in paragraph 2. That's the $2 million, the number that matches the fine from the prosecution of Weisselberg. Employee promises. B is relevant, not to verbally or in writing disparage, criticize, or denigrate the company or any of its former entities, officers, directors, managers, employees, owners, or representatives. That one I've seen in plenty of kind of NDAs and severance agreements, but I think it holds more meaning here when there's an active case against the Trump organization and Donald Trump. And then let's move down to D for a moment here. That except for acts of testimony directly compelled by subpoena or other lawful process issued by a court of competent jurisdiction, he will not, 1, communicate with, provide information to, or otherwise cooperate in any way with any other person or entity, including his counsel or other agents, having or claiming to have any adverse claims against the company or any person or entity released by this agreement with regard to the adverse claim, or 2, take any action to induce, encourage, instigate, aid, abet, or otherwise cause any other person or entity to bring or file a complaint, charge, lawsuit of other proceeding of any kind against the company or any person or entity released by this agreement. In other words, shut up and you get the money, but start talking in any of these court cases, that $2 million, that's all on you. You'll have to pay that yourself. And this is how Donald Trump uses severance agreements, NDAs. This is how when he pays for the attorneys of people, other co-defendants and whatnot, this is how he keeps people silent. And this is how he abuses the justice system. And this is how he obstructs justice. Now, Ben, looking at this, I heard you say earlier, could this now be cause for criminal charges against Donald Trump?
Yeah, I'm not going to give you a long rambling answer. It is yes. And there is a reason why there was an abrupt halt to the testimony of Weisselberg, because there are potential criminal implications now. And then Weisselberg also seems to have committed perjury, and he was lying about not being involved in the triplex, and like how I pronounced it correctly there, Brett, not being involved in,
I love it. It's a hot debate. It's a hot debate.
Not knowing it's not a debate. You taught me how to say it, and not knowing the square footage of it. And he said, I have no clue about that. And so one of the writers from Forbes who covered it basically wrote, I have all these emails that no one subpoenaed, like, hello, he's lying. And so then there was an adjournment on his testimony while you have the New York Attorney General now getting those documents from Forbes. And so I have no doubt the Manhattan District Attorney's Office is watching this very carefully. This appears to be classic textbook obstruction of justice by Donald Trump in inducing a type of deal like this, in my own opinion, in connection with a criminal case. And, and then you have another overt act, if you will, which is the testimony today where Weisselberg lied. So there you have it. There you have it, folks. But what I liked is that what the important for getting out the truth is covering this from all angles. Like, what is going on in the courts, what's going on in the House of Representatives, what's going on at the MAGA Republican leadership level with Donald Trump. And as we compared that to what's President Biden doing? Like, what's going on in this world of normalcy and trying to get things done? And it is just so incumbent upon all of us here in this community, as the MeidasTouch network continues to grow, thanks to all of you. Number one, the best way you can help out is make sure you're registered to vote. Really simple. Make sure you're registered to vote. Number two, make sure you register other people who are going to vote in favor of our democracy. Make sure they're registered to vote. The best day you could have started doing that, yesterday. The next best day, right now. If this community alone just did one person a day for the next however many days until registration is over, just one person a day, we're talking about numbers in the millions. And that's a game changer. The Meidas Mighty could just think about this. You could be the game. You already are working so hard. I know how hard you work. And everything you do is appreciated. This community that you created could be the game changer. So start today. One person, two people, three people, five people, whatever. And if you want to just show people, hey, take a look at this podcast. You may want to subscribe. Just give it one shot. Watch this episode. Show them this episode. It's a good first one. You can tell them to fast forward through the part where we talked about how Nancy Mace took shots and spit it into the mouth. You can say fast forward.
Why would you say fast forward to the best part? I don't. I mean,
but tell people about this, and tell them about this community that you all created. That would be super helpful. And then third, if it's possible, and really no pressure, but if it's possible, we don't have outside investors here. We've intentionally have not done that. I don't want people controlling what we do. So the way we've done it, I've said this before, perhaps not the greatest business-oriented solution, but one I think is the right move, is we've built this network through emojis in our Patreon. So on the emojis front, if you want to become a member of our YouTube, you could buy people memberships. There's that $ below on the chat on YouTube. Become a member. Buy people memberships. Ask to receive a membership as a gift. There's unlimited amounts that you could buy people. So that's one way you can help. It unlocks the emojis. And I think the emojis are fun. Separate and distinct from that is our Patreon. That's where we do the exclusive after show, which we're getting ready to do right now. Usually loads within about an hour after the show, but we have a whole library of some other after shows. And we have, in addition to the exclusive after show, once a month, you can meet with us on Zoom. You can meet us. You can meet me, Brett, and Jordy. We answer the questions that were asked. It's like think about it as a private podcast that we do for you. And so the way you become a member there is you go to Patreon, patreon.com/MEIDASTOUCH. On today's after show, we're going to go through our archive. We're going to show 2 or 3 videos that we made back in 2020 when MeidasTouch was just getting off the ground. I think is still relevant to this day. And we're going to talk a little bit about how we made that, or should I say how Brett made that, and Jordy and I took credit for it. Go to patreon.com/MeidasTouch to get that content and to help support and grow this platform. And make sure you're subscribed across all of our platforms. So audio listeners, subscribe on YouTube. YouTube watchers, search MeidasTouch wherever you get podcasts, and make sure you spell it right. It's MEIDASTOUCH, and make sure you subscribe on audio. It really helps with that audio algorithm. So please, if you can do that, subscribe there as well. And finally, I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. None of this is possible without you. Brett, Jordy, and myself are so grateful for this unapologetically intelligent, pro-democracy community that you created. There are so many communities that are rooted in negativity. So the fact that there's one in positivity, supporting our democracy, getting out the truth, getting out data and evidence, I'm so proud to be a part of this community that you created. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Once again, now is the time to go to patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time on the MeidasTouch Podcast. Jordy, take it away.
Shout out to the Midas Mighty!
The Midas Mighty standing strong against the fascists. We sing our song. We will get it right whenever.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.